Ask any Formula One fan what they would love to see return to the sport, and the answer is almost always the same: the thunderous, spine-tingling roar of the V10 engines from the late 1990s and early 2000s. These screaming powerhouses, with their 3.0 liters displacement and up to 1,000 brake horsepower, were the very essence of raw performance. For many longtime fans, the unmistakable sound of a V10 engine at full throttle remains one of the most cherished memories of watching F1 in their youth. While the modern 1.6 liters V6 hybrid power units are technical marvels, boasting impressive efficiency and hybrid technology, they simply lack the visceral spectacle that their larger predecessors delivered. Ever since Formula One transitioned to smaller, more fuel-efficient engines, calls have been constant for a return to the high-revving V10s, or at the very least, for a solution to the uninspiring drone of the current power units. Remarkably, those calls may finally be answered. The FIA is now considering a return to V10 engines, and this shift could happen much sooner than anyone expected. Let's take a closer look at what's unfolding. The upcoming Formula One season is already set to be a landmark year for the sport. For the first time in over a decade, the engine regulations are undergoing a significant overhaul. While the current 1.6 liters V6 turbo hybrid engines will remain, they will feature a greater hybrid component and will exclusively run on sustainable synthetic fuels. This shift aligns with Formula One's long-standing tradition of pushing the boundaries of automotive development. As the industry moves away from fossil fuels, F1's new approach ensures that manufacturers can continue to justify the massive investments they pour into developing engines for the sport. After all, manufacturers want their research and innovation to have practical applications for their road-going vehicles. The FIA's decision to revamp the power units has already proven successful in attracting major automakers to the sport. Audi, Honda, and Ford are set to enter or return in 2026, with General Motors following in 2028. However, while these regulatory changes have pleased manufacturers, there remains a growing concern that Formula One is straying too far from what made it the pinnacle of motorsport. By prioritizing manufacturers' interests over the pure spectacle of racing, the FIA risks transforming F1 into something closer to Formula E, where the combustion engine could eventually be reduced to nothing more than a symbolic relic. At one point, embracing hybrid technology was a necessary step for Formula One. When manufacturers were abandoning the sport due to its unsustainable costs, shifting towards hybrid power helped retain their involvement. However, times have changed. Formula One is now a global commercial success, and the sport no longer needs to compromise on spectacle to keep manufacturers engaged. With its growing financial stability, the FIA has an opportunity to pivot back toward the exhilarating high-performance spectacle that fans crave. This shift in mindset was evident when FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem recently posted a thought-provoking message on Instagram. Just 3 days after Formula One's season launch event in London, he suggested that the sport should consider a range of directions for its top category, including the roaring sound of the V10 running on sustainable fuel. This statement resonated deeply with fans, who have long questioned why, if sustainable fuels are carbon neutral, Formula One couldn't reintroduce a 3.0 liters V10 engine. If synthetic fuels can make combustion engines environmentally viable, then the argument for retaining small-capacity V6 hybrids loses much of its weight. Some experts even suggest that Formula One could take it a step further and abandon hybrid components altogether, returning to an era of purely combustion-powered racing. This idea is gaining traction within FIA circles, with more officials acknowledging that the current power units, while technologically advanced, are excessively complex and prohibitively expensive. During a recent discussion in China, FIA's single-seater director Nicholas Tombazis addressed the ongoing debate surrounding the 2026 power unit regulations and the FIA president's comments about a potential return to V10s. He acknowledged that the rapid progress of sustainable fuels has opened the door to reconsidering simpler engine designs. Certainly, the progress with sustainable fuels has led to views that maybe the engines could be simpler, Tombazis admitted. The world economy does lead to views that maybe we should try to cut costs a bit more, and the current power units are way too expensive. That is a fact. That's why the president made the comments about a V10 engine in 2028, and that is something we are evaluating with the power unit manufacturers. Over the past year, Formula One has witnessed near-constant speculation about potential changes to the 2026 power unit regulations. While the consensus among teams has been that the current development path is set in stone, given that they have already invested hundreds of millions into hybrid V6 technology, the idea of reintroducing V10 is beginning to gain serious momentum. If the FIA ultimately determines that sustainable fuels provide a viable alternative to hybridization, we may be on the cusp of witnessing the greatest comeback in Formula One history. The triumphant return of the legendary, earth-shaking V10 engine. Even for an F1 team backed by a massive car manufacturer, throwing away millions on technology development isn't an option. The 2026 engines are designed to last for at least 5 seasons, meaning they should still be in use through 2030. However, FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem has suggested that we could see a return of V10 engines as early as 2028. That said, the FIA can't simply decide to reintroduce V10s and expect manufacturers to fall in line. Any decision to cut short the 2026 regulations must be a collaborative one between the FIA and the engine manufacturers. It's a huge decision, and the debate has already begun between those pushing for change and those resisting it. Before diving into where each manufacturer stands, if you're enjoying the video and want to stay updated on all things F1, be sure to like the video and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks for the support. The manufacturer divide. So, who's in favor of the V10 revival, and who's against it? First, let's look at what manufacturers stand to gain from a regulation shift. The 2026 hybrid engines are incredibly expensive and complex to develop. Many teams believe that moving to a different power unit, like a V10 running on sustainable fuels, could cut costs, simplify development, and level the playing field. Unlike the 2026 regulations, which introduce changes, but not a total reset, switching to a completely different powertrain could shake up the competitive landscape. Established manufacturers like Mercedes, who have dominated F1's hybrid era since 2014, benefit from years of accumulated knowledge, giving them a major edge over newcomers like Audi and Red Bull powertrains. However, this isn't just a battle between old and new manufacturers. Red Bull, for example, is one of the biggest advocates for ending the 2026 regulations early and switching to a V10. Team principal Christian Horner has argued that sustainable fuels open the door to more exciting possibilities. The purist in me would love to go back to a V10 if it was done responsibly with sustainable fuel, Horner said. If that was reintroduced, the sound of Grand Prix racing. It's an interesting concept, and one to certainly look at after this current set of regulations. Despite his previous criticism of the 2026 rules, at one point calling for a complete overhaul, Horner now acknowledges that changing the regulations before 2026 is merely impossible. Ferrari is also believed to support an early return to V10s. The Italian manufacturer has a long history of producing high-capacity engines, with only one road car in the past 60 years featuring a V6. The 3.0 Lotus 296 DTB from 2022. Sources within Ferrari suggest they'd prefer a V10, as it would align better with their road car technology. Lewis Hamilton, who has strong ties to Ferrari's leadership and is rumored to be designing a special edition Ferrari model, the F44, has been one of the most vocal supporters of a return to V10s. It's no secret that the V6 has never sounded great. Hamilton said, "I remember the first time I came to an F1 race in 1996 at Spa. I arrived, and Michael Schumacher came through turn 1. My ribcage was vibrating. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever felt and heard. Over the years, we've lost that. So if we can bring back those incredible sounds while still meeting sustainability goals, why not?" Another potential supporter of the V10 return is General Motors, GM, which is developing an F1 engine under the Cadillac brand. Their earliest projected entry is 2028, meaning they have the flexibility to adapt.